Welcome back to another week. Welcome back to another week and in the big sister cozy book corner of the internet. I hope you've all had a fantastic week. I just realized I don't have any of my rings on. BRB. Okay, we are back. Okay, so as a human being, I am less human. I'm like 1 part human, 10 parts Taylor Swift lyrics. I am a swiftie. I have been a swiftie for a very long time. I have enjoyed Taylor Swift's music for many, many years, and I think she has good taste. At least when it comes to writing, I think she has great taste. I think she's an incredible lyricist. I genuinely think that she is one of, you know, say what you want about her as a person or pop music in general or whatever. I genuinely don't think you can deny that she is one of our generation's greatest lyricists. And I will literally fight anyone in the comments who tries to say otherwise. And I have so many examples of anyway, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is that I was reading an article about inspirations behind a lot of Taylor Swift songs, and I realized that the song Tolerate It from her album Evermore, I want to say. I get Evermore and Folklore confused because, let's be so honest, they're very similar. Her album Evermore, the song Tolerate It, is essentially based off the book Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So then it got me wondering, what other books has Taylor Swift recommended? She's written a lot of books for like soundtracks for movies, like she did The Hunger Games, she did 50 Shades of Grey, I think she did Valentine's Day. There's a couple of different movies, not including Cats. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that here.
Crime, the cavities, not there.
So for this week's video, I thought I would do some digging and look at other books, novels, poetry, whatever. I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm only talking about books that Taylor Swift has recommended or mentioned or said that she liked. So let's get into it. I think I've spoken on this channel before about how I'm just not really like a classics girly. I've just never really been someone who reads a lot of classic novels or likes a lot of classic novels. But of course, 2 of the books on this list were classic novels. So I did remember to film myself with some reading footage, so I'll probably like splice it in amongst this video. But the first book we are going to be talking about is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. We all know this book, we've all heard of it. In all likelihood, you've probably been forced to read it in high school for a project or English class or whatever. I might get hunted down and burnt at the stake for this, but I did not like this book. I really didn't like it. Okay. So the first book we are doing in this, that's my son. It's one I've been putting off for a very long time, but knowing the basic outline of the book, I can recognize that a lot of the topics of fame and money and losing yourself to that and becoming a different person are echoed in this book. So I'm excited to get into it. As I said, I'm really not a classics girly, generally speaking. There are certainly ones I've read and loved, and I can really understand why. Some of them stand the test of time. I find a lot of classics really dense and hard to hook into, especially with the style of writing, and I think this is a perfect example of one that I really struggled with. And it's not a thick book, but when I tell you I slogged my way through this, oh my goodness. It's just like, get to the point. Like, we spend paragraphs describing things that don't need paragraphs. So for those of you who live under a rock and don't know what the plot of Great Gatsby is about, we follow one of our main characters, Nick Carraway, in the year 1922, where he has just moved to a new house and he meets the mysterious and enigmatic Jay Gatsby. We also get to meet Nick's distant cousin Daisy and her husband Tom, who also live nearby. The story essentially follows Nick slowly kind of like uncovering the mysterious past of Jay Gatsby, because no one can really work out like how he came into so much money or where he came from in a society that is so steeped in like etiquette and old money versus new. I don't know, this one just wasn't for me. It covers like a lot of themes of like being an outsider and compensating for that, being an outsider and trying to compensate for that with wealth, and the concept of like new money versus old money. I just found the story itself as like, I don't know, a little, dare I say, contrived and obvious. Like I was kind of like, oh, okay, sure. I feel like some of the books that are deemed classics, you instantly get it. You read it and you're like, I understand what you're talking about. This one, I'm like, really? This is the book that we've chose to like solidify in history as one of the greats? Like, really? I feel like there are probably a lot of people who are going to disagree with me. I don't get it. I don't see what is so special about this book, you know, which is fine. We're all entitled to our opinions here. We're not going to be mean to anyone, okay? My opinion is just that I didn't particularly enjoy this book, and I haven't read any other Fitzgerald, and I would be very unlikely to based off this. I can certainly see how Taylor would potentially relate to this book. She said multiple times over the years, although I'm starting to doubt the legitimacy of this sort of argument, that she has felt like an outsider and she got bullied through high school and she's always felt like not one of the cool kids and like she doesn't fit in and she doesn't belong and blah 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 blah. I can truly see how she could relate to the character of Jay Gatsby, someone who has made it in terms of wealth but is still viewed as an outsider because they're not a part of like the institution. Jay Gatsby has clawed his way to the top, but he's still sort of looked down on by the upper class because he's not truly one of them because he's part of the new money. So I can certainly see how Taylor, having grown up in like country music, like a young girl in country music, she was never really taken seriously within that genre. So I can definitely see how she would like relate to the character of Gatsby. There are like multiple songs where she has referenced like being an outsider in general, but I think the most notable reference specifically to The Great Gatsby would be This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things, where she says the quote about feeling so Gatsby for that whole year in reference to hanging out with like Kanye West and all those famous people. There are also references in her song Happiness where she references both a beautiful fool, which is a quote that Daisy Buchanan says, and then also the green light, which is kind of like the symbol of Jay Gatsby's love for Daisy. A few quotes from The Great Gatsby that kind of gave me Taylor vibes were, she's got an indiscreet voice, I remarked. It's full of, I hesitated, her voice is full of money, he said suddenly. That was it, I'd never understood before. It was full of money. That was the inexhaustible charm that rose and fell in it, the jingle of it, the symbol's song of it. I love how this quote is like sort of steeped in that, again, realization how deep the vein of money runs. Like you can make a bunch of money, but there's certain indicators of wealth and good breeding that just are so ingrained in a person, and no amount of time with new money in that society will allow you to have that same experience with that person. The other quote I really liked was, you see, I usually find myself among strangers because I drift here and there trying to forget the sad things that happen to me. I think that's like a reference. Taylor has referenced like in a lot of songs that she loves a good old like cut and run when it comes to people. And I think that quote sort of like perfectly sums it up, like the feeling of not wanting to really deal with your feelings and just kind of wanting to like Irish goodbye and get out of here. I can't say I enjoyed this book. I really can't say I liked this one, which is a shame because I wish I could see the hype, but I just don't. So this one's going on my overhyped list. I can't speak. The next book that Taylor has actually recommended, like she's come out and said she likes both the book and the series about it. This is where we started cooking, people. This is where we were cooking with gas, okay? Up until I started doing things for this video, I had never read Sally Rooney. I know. I think it was something about, I knew I would like it, and I was scared that all of the hype would potentially like lift her up into higher esteem for it to ever be met. And how wrong was I? Because this, so good. Oh, it was so good. This is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Guys, I get the hype. I really get the hype. Sally Rooney's writing, Sally Rooney's writing. Wow, that's a mouthful. Sally Rooney's writing is beautiful. She has a way of writing about love that I just adored and I related to so deeply. I am a Sally Rooney girly, officially. Now, I'm part of the fan club, okay guys? So Normal People is about Marianne and Connell who meet in high school. They are from very different lives. Connell is from a poor family, Marianne is from a rich family. Connell is very popular and finds it very easy to fit in at school. Marianne is very unpopular and weird and finds it really difficult to fit in and relate to people. And we follow them, basically they start a relationship in high school and we just get to watch them drift apart and come back together and drift apart and come back together throughout the span of several years. I just loved this so much. This book is about love in all ways and how it doesn't always make sense and it doesn't always look the way you thought it was going to, and it doesn't always make you feel the way you thought it was going to, and how certain people are just kind of fated to be together and to gravitate towards each other and drift in and out of each other's lives. I loved how we get to see both Connell and Marianne in so many different like phases of their life, but they can't seem to get away from each other. They can't seem to shake this bond that they have. I also personally felt a real pull and I guess the kindred spirit to the character of Marianne, and the feeling of never quite fitting in and the feeling of like standing on the outside looking in and never really feeling normal and wondering what it is to not being able to understand the people around you that seem so capable of acting normal. A lot of people really don't like the lack of like quotation marks, like punctuation when it comes to the speech in Sally Rooney's writing. Again, that's such a hard word to say. I personally, like, there's a bunch of authors that I really like that do this, and I think it's a really good technique because it really doesn't take you out of the flow of the story. Like, it means that the writing and the story and the speech and everything, it just kind of flows together without having to be like, oh, and then she said, I don't know how to really probably articulate what I'm trying to say, but I really like the lack of punctuation marks. I would say out of all the books, this is probably, in my opinion, the least like influential on Taylor's music, but I think more generally it reflects what I think as a Taylor Swift aficionado, what I think her like concept of love is and how she views love and how she kind of like Taylor is a romantic. You don't have to listen to her entire discography to understand that. I think she seems to have this very like fatalistic approach to love and how it's very like destiny and fate driven, and like she also has a lot of themes of like being like a soft-hearted person in a very cruel world, which I think really reflects closely on the character of Marianne. Some quotes from the book that I really enjoyed was, feeling a strange sense of nostalgia for a moment that was already in the process of happening. I am such a nostalgic little bitch, and I find myself so often reminiscing on moments as they are happening and wondering how I'm going to look back on things in a year's time, in 5 years' time, even while those things are all happening to me. Another quote I really loved was, the outside world touches against her outside skin, but not the other part of herself inside. That reminded me really heavily of I Hate It Here from Torture Poets Department. The idea that there is an outside you that other people are able to access, and then this inner world that only you have the key to. And I think, again, that's very reminiscent of Marianne's character. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I am so excited. I've got Sally Rooney's other book just here. Oh, I'm knocking over the trinkets. I'll fix that after. I've got Conversations with Friends here, and I'm also going to pick up Intermezzo, and I'm very excited to get into some more Sally Rooney. So Taylor Swift, 10 out of 10 for this choice. The next book I'm going to talk about is the one that kind of inspired this whole video, and that is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Now, if The Great Gatsby was a book that is considered a classic that I read and was like, I don't get it, Rebecca is the opposite. I loved this book. Is it like wordy and chunky and a lot to get through? Yes. Is the font tiny and did it take me forever? Yes. Did I enjoy every freaking second of this book though? Yes. I'm such a little bitch for like gothic novels, and this is just chef's kiss. Okay, so I've just started Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, I think. I'm enjoying it so far. It is definitely more on the like poetic-y, flowery language side of classical, whereas I feel like a lot of classical is just like very stodgy language. So I'm enjoying it so far. I'll keep you posted. So this is the book that is said to have inspired the song Tolerate It from Evermore, which when you read the lyrics for that song, and once you've read this book, you really get it. So Rebecca is about our unnamed heroine who is swept off her feet by a sort of reclusive rich man, Maxime de Winter, who they have like a chance meeting at a hotel in Monte Carlo, and then they have like a whirlwind marriage, and our heroine goes back to Manderley, which is the great country estate of Maxim, and she becomes the Lady of Manderley, but she is kind of haunted by the presence of Maxim's ex-wife Rebecca. The writing in this is just beautiful. It is gothic and atmospheric, and I think Daphne du Maurier does such an absolutely fantastic job of painting Manderley as almost like a character in of itself. Like the atmosphere surrounding the estate and the presence of Rebecca that permeates every room and wall is just so beautifully written. I loved this book so deeply. I loved how we are introduced to the main character, who is remains unnamed, by the way. You never get to know her given name. You only know her as like the first person narration or as Mrs. De Winter when her and Maxim get married. I loved that we're introduced to her as a very like charming, naive young girl, and you get to know her that way, and then she's kind of like the delicate, naive ingenue who slowly grows into her role as the Lady of Manderley, but is unable to shake the presence of Rebecca. And she's also unable to like get the love from Maxim that she has always thought that she would have. She's had this very beautiful, romantic, soft idealization of what their marriage would be like, and it's nothing like that. This book is like hauntingly atmospheric. Du Maurier has done just such a good job. I sometimes when I really like a book, I struggle to talk about it because I'm like, I don't know, I liked it. I liked it a lot. This is wonderful. I actually struggled to find singular quotes from this book that I loved because I just think the whole book is fantastic, and the whole book really echoes a lot of the themes in Taylor's music of unrequited love and feeling like you're not good enough, or not even not good enough, but you're not appreciated for what you are. I think that was like one of the running themes in Tortured Poets Department, and like a lot of her running themes in some of the music that she writes, like the feeling of your love to someone else being underappreciated or not accepted in the way you want it to. The last book I want to talk about, which I'm going to be so honest and so upfront and say I have not finished reading yet, and that is Furious Love by Sam Kushner, and this is the like the story of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton and their like tumultuous Hollywood-fueled love affair. This is a chunky book. It's like 600 pages and it's non-fiction, so I am like slowly getting my way through it. But yeah, I haven't finished this one yet. I wanted to film this video. I didn't get to finish this book before I wanted to film the video. But I think Elizabeth Taylor is one of those characters in history where she is just such a fascinating person, and I genuinely think in 50 years time we will be looking back on people like Taylor Swift the same way we look at characters like Elizabeth Taylor, because she has this larger than life crazy life, and her and Richard Burton have this like insane up and down, back and forth, tumultuous love relationship. I think one of the parts from the book that I love so much is at the beginning when they're talking about how they would hide from the paparazzi and like play Scrabble and just like play Scrabble and like put little like dirty words in the Scrabble and get each other all riled up, and then, you know, like truly that's love. When you get horny playing Scrabble together, that's when you know you're meant to be together. But I think in general, like the character, because I do believe like the parts of Elizabeth Taylor that we got to see are a character. I think the character of Elizabeth Taylor is one that will go down in history as one of the most fascinating people. Like she was so interesting. The way that she had the world wrapped around her finger. I think there is a line in I'm now blanking on the song, but it's in Reputation. He can be my jailer, Burton to this Taylor. So clever, first of all, but also such a testament to the absolutely iconic love relationship that Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton had. I don't know why I'm really struggling with words today. but I'm struggling with ye old words today. So I hope this video has been somewhat enjoyable. I guess it's a little bit of a shorter one, probably because, as I mentioned, I didn't get to finish one of the books that I was going to talk about. But these are the books that, there's a bunch more, but these are some standouts that Taylor has either recommended or used in her music or like based whole songs off. I think she has top tier taste, I'm not gonna lie, with the exception of The Great Gatsby, but the Sally Rooney and the Rebecca of it all really saved this video for me, because I started with The Great Gatsby and it was not a good start. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of like reading vlog-esque vibe. I don't know what to call it. It's like a bit of a sit down, a bit of a reading vlog. Let me know what you thought of this style. I am kind of hoping to make this like celebrity book club, kind of like a monthly thing. So if you have a celebrity that you would like me to test their taste when it comes to books, let me know and I can have a go at it. I hope you all have a great week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, don't leave a mean comment or I will cry, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.